this Daniel? Hey, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Um, yeah, it's the first time to really get connected to the Avalanche and Pangolin community, so it's exciting.
Awesome, yeah. You guys are new on the scene at Avalanche, already pretty established. So we'll give everyone a few minutes to join up before we officially get started. But how has everything been going this week for you?
Way too busy. I seriously need some off time or just something to relax. But no, it's just been crazy busy. We have had a lot of developments on our side. I'm on the business side, obviously, so a lot of marketing initiatives, BDs, really cool projects coming up. So. Yeah, I'm excited to tell everyone about our recent progress.
Awesome, awesome. And for those listening, we'll give everyone just a few more minutes to join. OIN Finance is a stablecoin issuance platform, multi-chain, really big. They're going to come to Avalanche soon. Partnered with Pangolin. We're very excited to work together.
Yep. Um, it's a fresh partnership, and we got some cool things coming. So stay tuned.
Cool. So I think we can just kick things off with a light intro. I'm sure more people will pop in as we go. Can you tell us a bit about your own role and maybe about how the project got started?
Yeah. So I guess I do need to introduce myself. My name is Daniel Kwak. I am the marketing director for OIN Finance. We're a stable collateralized stablecoin minting platform. Long story short, think MakerDAO, but better. For us, we basically started because we saw a need, right? We actually started on we were going to start on the ontology network, but we decided to, kind of switch and start with Ethereum. Um, we saw a need in the space where, if any project wanted a stablecoin, then it was, they pretty much either had to make their own or, kind of wait for a project to come by to do it. For us, we understood that, if anybody wanted to get on to, for example, MakerDAO, they had to be, within top 20 or something, and you only got to mint, the DAI. For us, we thought that guys like Avalanche, you guys are amazing, massive. Um, you would obviously want your own native stablecoin where it, functions flawlessly within your system, where you also have some semblance of control over the stablecoin itself, as well as obviously branding. We don't want to focus too much on the branding, but you have to realize that we are all a business, right? So the marketing aspect of it, the recognizability of the names and whatnot is still very important. So yeah, that's exactly what we did. We created a platform, the OIN DAO, where projects could come in. You don't have to be top 20. You don't have to mint, the same stablecoin. For example, for AVAX, you'd come in and you'd collateralize AVAX and you would mint the AVAX USD. Um, excuse me. And that would be all native to the Avalanche blockchain. So, yeah, we saw a need and we decided, it's the most important time to pull it because we saw the public chains starting to get big. We saw stablecoins as kind of a necessary step in the future development of blockchain technology in the traditional world. Um, we saw that it's not just going to be about, okay, are you going to replicate traditional world processes onto blockchain? How are you going to integrate, and how are you going to make it more attractive for users, not just crypto users, but also all users? How to make the whole system more attractive, right? And that this was the way we had to do it. So my role, I guess that's also your question. My role is I'm obviously marketing director, so I do a lot of the strategy around our marketing campaigns, the initiatives, ideation, execution. But we all wear a lot of different hats. We're a pretty small team, so I'm also doing, stuff like BD. I help with, product development, not in that I can code, but, the UIs and whatnot, right? Um, and yeah, and some of the business strategy.
That's awesome. That's great. It's good to hear the vision of your project, kind of how it sees a need, sees a strong network that's growing and wants to fill that need. And it's nice to learn about your own role too. By the way, so I've never said the project name out loud. It's OIN. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, yeah. It's like a coin without the C.
Oh, okay, okay. So that's like the origin of the naming then.
We're gonna go with that. The actual is not as catchy, so that is what we're going with.
Got it. Cool. I'll use OIN going forward then. Thanks for the
Yeah,
clarification.
yes.
Um, no, so that's great. It's really awesome to hear that you kind of evaluated multiple places to grow, and Avalanche was very attractive. That's um, awesome to hear as an Avalanche builder, and I'm sure community loves that too. So I'd like to dig a little deeper into that problem you're trying to solve. Just, I mean, when you look at Avalanche, you said you saw a gap, and how is OIN Finance going to fill that gap? Can you tell us like the platform that you're bringing, the tokens you're bringing?
Right. So we actually have a new version of the OIN DAO coming out. It's called the OIN DAO V3. We're actually jumping straight from V1 to V3. But regardless, you can basically think of it. It is actually quite similar to MakerDAO in that you get single vaults, like your own vault, right? That's tied to your wallet address. And there's still single vault liquidations. So if you're under collateralized, or at least if you're below the minimum collateralization rate, then you get liquidated. So the default minimum is 150%. So for every dollar that you withdraw, you have to have a minimum of $1.50 in AVAX, with collateralized within your wallet. Sorry, your vault. And we have a lot of other features as well, like we have what is it? We have stability pools, which helps manage everything and helps ensure that there really is, kind of a floor um, to the actual traded price of the stablecoin, and just a ton of features in that vein, right? It's a very robust system that has multiple mechanisms to kind of help keep the soft peg to the US dollar, or whatever currency you end up choosing. So how we're filling a need is it's basically Avalanche is growing at a massive pace, right? You guys have great and expanding ecosystem. It's alarming how fast you guys are growing, especially with Avalanche Rush. Um, but for you guys to grow so quickly, there's a lot of opportunity in there. But also, if you want to, kind of push for the original dream back in like 2017, right? Everybody was talking about real world adoption and use cases and all this kind of things. Well, we're actually seeing a bit of that now. It's funny. It's not the focus of the industry anymore, but it's actually where it's kind of going. We're all focused on NFTs and and DeFi and liquidity pools and whatnot, but it is actually going in that way, and that's we're seeing a lot of traditional institutionals jumping in. We're seeing a lot of traditional funds. We're seeing a lot of businesses, point of sale systems. All these guys hopping onto crypto and either accepting it or integrating into their business one way or another. We're seeing a ton of excuse me. We're seeing a ton of business applications, and that oftentimes you don't actually know that it is a blockchain being used in the app, but they're kind of hiding the fact, right? It's not that they're intentionally hiding it. It's just they didn't see a need to do it because they're kind of framing themselves as more of a traditional company. Um, and you never hear about those projects because they obviously don't advertise that fact. So for us, we're seeing that it is really coming to a point where the crypto world is really meeting the regular world that you see out your window. So how do we make it easier for these guys to jump into the industry, and how do we make it easier for us to also hook into the traditional businesses? Well, It's very simple. If you think about just cash flows, right? What do all businesses need? What is the number one killer for a startup? SMEs, small medium enterprises. That's they can't predict their cash flows properly or well enough. You need a certain amount of money coming in and a certain amount going out, and you need to be able to predict that and with relative accuracy because otherwise, how are you going to pay your bills, right? You're going to go bankrupt quite easily if you're not able to do that. So, stablecoins really offer that bridge between the need for predictable cash flows and access to the crypto world, right? And for us, it's not just an algorithmic crypto. It's not we're not backing it by having dollars actually what is it, an escrow somewhere. It's just it's collateralized by the underlying asset, which in this case would be Avalanche. So it gives Avalanche users the freedom to a bit of liquidity. It allows them to leverage. So if you're holding on to Avalanche and you don't want to sell Avalanche because you really believe in Avalanche, um, and you want to, for example, pay for goods and services, we give you that access to do that because we all by byproduct of the collateralization mechanism, you're also able to leverage, right? So you collateralized, I don't know, X amount of dollars of Avalanche, and then you can withdraw a certain amount of, stable coins. You can pay for goods and services with that, and later on, when you're content, you can, kind of just return that, CBD or collateralized debt position to pay down your outstanding stablecoin. Um, what is it? Balance, and then you can withdraw your Avalanche again. Right? You haven't lost anything.
That makes a lot of sense, and I love that you get into the details of not just the mechanism of using it, but you brought it back up to like small businesses and just fundamental problems in finance about the cash flows. I really like hearing that.
Yeah,
So
we found that it's really important, right? It's not just about uses within the crypto industry because that's very limiting, not just for us as a company, but also for our users as well, right? A lot of the times when you're looking at collateralized stablecoins, that sometimes they actually don't have any uses out there. Like, what are you going to do with some of the I won't name any names, but a lot of collateralized stablecoins they actually have no off ramp. So it turns into kind of a staking mechanism, right? Which initially for us it was too, because some of our partners that released stablecoins on the OIN DAO, they didn't have any actual use cases or utility lined up to go along with the launch of the stablecoin. So it just ended up becoming more of a staking platform than anything. With the V3 and with us refocusing on the larger public chains like Avalanche and having access to great exchanges like Pangolin, we then have use cases pretty much immediately upon launch. Right, a user will be able to um, do what they wish with the actual stable coins that they minted. Now that definitely ties into the traditional world and SMEs uh, for small and medium enterprises. If they can't withdraw or actually have an off ramp of their stable coins, then it's useless for them to come into the industry. Right? Why would a mom and pop burger shop start accepting stable coins if they have to pay I don't know 10% in fees by transferring it to a different exchange and then one more exchange and then use an OTC service and then transfer it to US dollars and then have it sent to their bank account in their country and that's another wire transfer fee and all these things, right? It just becomes so painful. But if you actually have on and off ramps, especially in established ecosystems such as Avalanche, then it's an immediate win, I think, for the community as well.
definitely, definitely, I'd like to dig into a couple more topics along the lines of stablecoin issuance. But first, can you clarify what you mean by the off and on ramps? Does that mean they can trend convert it back into AVAX or actually into fiat, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so for us right now, the V3 platform is that you can only trade the it's not actually trading in, it's repaying the outstanding stablecoins for Avalanche if it's your own vault, right? And you have an outstanding balance. But if we get in, if we have pools on, Pangolin, if we have, excuse me, if we have pools on Curve and whatnot, then, that is an immediate, not direct off ramp into fiat, but it is an off ramp into whatever best suits their needs, right? Um,
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's just like one hop away to take your OIN issued stablecoin and kind of just use it wherever, whether it be DeFi or you can even get into real world with a couple hops with that. Is what you
yeah,
mean.
yeah. So we're trying to simplify things as much as possible for users. Um, and by users, it also includes, crypto users, retail users, and the businesses involved, right? As well as our ecosystem partners too.
Definitely. We would love to see your stablecoin. Can you just drop the name of the stablecoin and maybe the governance token you're bringing too so everyone is aware?
Right. So the OIN stablecoin is actually called the USDO, and it won't be using the V3. It's just using a V1. That's because we don't have immediate use cases we have planned for our stablecoin. The governance token is just OIN, OIN. And that will be used to pay for all the fees generated on the OIN DAO, as well as for governance of the stability fees that determines the what you pay, right? So, for example, if you have minted the Avalanche stablecoin, so the AVAX USD, by collateralizing Avalanche, then you would be racking up fees based on how much you have outstanding, as well as per block, right? So that would be a percentage thing, and that is paid by the OIN token. We will be releasing an OIN token on the Avalanche blockchain as well. Not only that, we also will have the OIN token on Avalanche will also be the one that determines the actual percentages that you pay for the stability fees. So the community has a say in how much you pay. That is similar to MakerDAO, and that is similar to how central banks govern their money supply, right? So for us, that's important because that's also a mechanism that controls the what is it, the soft peg, right? So if, for example, the AVAX USD becomes undervalued, right, in the market, say it's trading, say 90 cents, zero point 0.9 AVAX USD to 1 USDT or USDC, then there's obviously too much AVAX USD out in the market. So what do? You raise the stability fee on OIN DAO with the OIN token, and you raise the interest rates. You can think of it as interest rates. Once that's done, the excuse me, the vault holders, the owners of the vaults, are then incentivized or actually disincentivized to have AVAX USD outstanding. So they will try to buy AVAX USD on the markets to kind of pay down their balances, right? So that drives the price of the AVAX USD up to parity with USDC or USDT.
Okay, that makes sense. So there's it's designed in a way to keep the peg that way. That's really awesome. So I've been mentioning MakerDAO a lot. I'd like to maybe just touch on that because you said you're trying to be an improvement. But before we get to that point, I just want to kind of cover MakerDAO itself. I've heard some analysts describe it as kind of the foundation of Ethereum DeFi, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
without Maker's popularity and size, DeFi wouldn't have been possible because um, everyone's ETH or on Avalanche, everyone's AVAX is just kind of locked up or staked, right? It's not flowing through the system. But
Mm-hmm.
with something like a stablecoin issuance collateralized, all of a sudden you're longing AVAX or Ethereum. and you're using stablecoins and DeFi. Can you kind of just describe, you know, the landscape with and without MakerDAO?
Yeah, so I do want to clarify. I did mention MakerDAO several times, but it's not that we're trying to improve on MakerDAO because their own system for their own purposes is not bad. But for us, sorry, um, we're targeting a bit of a different market and a bit of a different purpose, right? We're not, limiting ourselves to just a few blockchains, nor are we all putting it into, one stable coin. They're going more for the centralized, everybody use the DAI kind of approach where we understand the needs of, every blockchain to have their own. For example, if cross-chain functionality, regardless of the blockchain, was, fully and well developed, then yeah, something like that might potentially be used as kind of a standard across the industry, but we're not there yet. And if such a thing came, then, something like the USDC might, also provide to be a very big competitor to MakerDAO, right? Um, but the reason why I mentioned MakerDAO a few times was because some of our mechanisms resemble MakerDAO, and instead of having to explain what a single vault liquidation is all over again, just refer to MakerDAO, right? Um, but yeah, the industry with and without MakerDAO is a very big one, isn't it? That's saying the industry without Ethereum. Well, what happens without Ethereum, right? Um, there's Avalanche, there's Solana, there's all these guys, and you guys are coming up, and you guys are pretty much taking over the crypto world. But you know, yeah, Ethereum did kind of start it all, didn't it? Um, Same thing with MakerDAO. So I completely agree. MakerDAO is definitely the guys that started it. But guys like us, the second generation, we're also massively important too because we're the ones that really, I think, flesh out the idea for specific purposes, right? Um, Avalanche, for example, is great in transaction times, low cost, decentralization, very, very easy to code for. All these things, that's massive benefits, and that's very specific benefits, right? Um, and I think we at OIN are positioned kind of similarly. We have very specific focuses on the benefits that is offered by the OIN DAO, and I think those benefits really suit guys like Avalanche and Pangolin.
Yeah, we are extremely excited to partner with your project, and along the lines of the partnership. So we've been talking, and you've shared your new partnership program called the Constellation Partners. Can you
Yeah.
share with the group what that means and what it means to join?
Yeah, so it is a couple things together, right? So because the OIN DAO, what we do is we have the OIN stake contract, which is the heart of the OIN DAO. The OIN stake smart contract is the one that collateralizes and mints the stable coins. So when we partner with a large layer one like you guys, we adapt the OIN stake smart contract that's on Ethereum to whatever blockchain it needs to be. So we've recently undergone a rebranding as well, very space themed. There's astronauts and stuff on our website now. Um, but Avalanche. If you think of Avalanche, it's a massive project, isn't it? Layer ones like Avalanche are really the stars of the industry at the moment. Excuse me. And what do you think of when you hear the word constellation? Right? What are constellations originally? It's these big, massive things in the sky that's made up of massive stars and galaxies and when we look up, we get inspired by it, right? Like, we connected the dots and made massive ideological, drawings out of, just dots. And we called them, Pisces or Aries, or whatever. And we gave them stories. We gave them, massive meaning behind it. The stories also tell, um, you know, a story that also conveys a value, conveys feelings, emotions, and all these things. So we understood that as the OIN DAO, yes, we may be the center of, all these connections, but the ecosystem of Avalanche is so massive and so big. And you guys have so many projects on your ecosystem. So if we start partnering with the ecosystem partners of Avalanche, then it is going to be exactly like a constellation. Within the constellation of Avalanche, there will be guys like Pangolin, there will be guys like Curve, and all these other guys, right? And all of those together make up the massive, great, inspiring Avalanche constellation. I know it sounds like I'm selling things, but that really is kind of the origin of it, because we did see that it's very important to recognize not only just the Avalanche blockchain, but also the constituent ecosystem partners. Right? And along with that, we have the Constellation Partnership Series, where it's we focus a little more, for a week or two on that specific partner. So we'll talk about, we'll have more articles, we'll have panel discussions, we'll have co-branded NFTs released. So, a ton of exciting things for the community, as well as, kind of community building, right? It increases the buy-in and the loyalty, not just from the community, but also from the project side as well. So that is the Constellation Partnership, which I think is really cool.
Hey, I really love the name and the theming. Good branding goes a long way in crypto and DeFi, right?
Yeah.
And if you haven't checked out OIN's website, it's pretty beautiful. There's constellations, there's floating astronauts. I'm looking at it right now. Check them out if you have time.
And along with the branding, right? Like, I do agree. But it also creates an image of kind of what we want to convey to the community, right? To the users, of how we're thinking of the industry, right? Because at the end of the day, the community is the one that really makes the project. Without the users and the community, there is no project. So for us, we found it important to really convey kind of how we are, looking at the industry in terms of positioning, in terms of, strategy and all these things. And we thought Constellation was the best fit.
Definitely. Hey, so there's one more program that you guys have called the Stablecoin Coalition I'd like to learn about, and then I'd like to bring it up high level to just talking about Avalanche. Can you tell us about the Stablecoin Coalition?
Yeah, for sure. The Stablecoin Coalition is kind of I wouldn't say a byproduct, but it is in conjunction with the Constellation Partners. So the coalition is made up of, most of our Constellation partners, and what that is so if we went to, say, for example, a payment processor. I don't want to name any names, but think of the largest online payment processors that you can, right, in the traditional world. And imagine we ask them, hey, can you start accepting the OIN stablecoin? It's not really going to work, is it? If we went together with Avalanche and Pangolin, it might have a little more sway. And if we got together 5, 10 more projects, then we're really talking, right? And it's not just Avalanche, right? If we get together some of the largest players in the industry and said, hey, look, now we have a path for you to really join the crypto space in a meaningful way without having to worry about cash flows or, the fluctuations in price, of the volatility of the assets. You can actually feel safe with it because it's stable and you can integrate very easily. We'll provide an off ramp. We'll provide an on ramp. We'll provide the infrastructure where we can. We can develop it together, whatever, right? So that is the purpose of the Stablecoin Coalition. It is to set the foundational infrastructure of DeFi, not for the sake of DeFi itself and purely for DeFi, but also to integrate with traditional businesses. Because yes, crypto is great. I'm in crypto. Of course, I think it's great. But why leave the rest of the world out, right? It holds so much value. It holds so much use cases, utility, and whatnot. I mean, we're going to have to integrate at some point if we want to really grow the industry, right? And what is DeFi? It's decentralized finance. And what is finance? It's It's how you use assets. It's how you use, the freedom of your assets and all these things. And that is exactly what we're trying to do with the Stablecoin Coalition. And along the lines of, integration and the infrastructure, we're also, the bigger partners that we have on board, the more we can discuss things like, okay, how do we provide an easy on and off ramp for all these guys? How do we, you know, make sure that everything flows smoothly between all these projects, so that it's not all very fragmented like the market currently is.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's to add legitimacy to stable coins and kind of pool knowledge and resources. Because, like you said, I think most stable coins, although they compete within the DeFi space, they're all also trying to solve the same problem of how do I integrate with traditional finance, and a coalition makes a lot more sense than everyone trying to spearhead it on their own, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're not pushing a standard down everybody's throat, right? We're not, you know, going out and saying, hey, this is our stablecoin, everybody start accepting it now. That is not what we're doing. Um, and one of the agenda is, of course, we're going to discuss, is there a need for a standardized stablecoin? Exactly like how, for example, the US dollar is kind of the standard for international transfers, for international trade. So do we need something like that? Do we need a turnkey stablecoin? Um, and that is one of the agenda, things on the agenda for the Stablecoin Coalition. We need to discuss that properly, but we need to discuss it with the big partners for the industry to actually start accepting that idea of a turnkey stablecoin, right? If we say, hey, this is our turnkey stablecoin, everybody start accepting it now, nobody's going to accept it. We need to have discussions on, okay, how do we integrate this so that everybody is happy? How do we make sure that, the whole industry and all our partners grow together, not just us, right? And that's why, for us, the Constellation Partners are very important, because the constellations hold so much value and so much power within the industry, right? So we're looking to get, guys as great as Avalanche and Pangolin on board, right? That is, discussions that we're still having and we're pushing for, and we do have quite a lot of interest in the Stablecoin Coalition. It is a story that everybody likes, right? And it's got a good narrative. It's got a good ring to it. If it becomes like a household name, a company wants to start accepting crypto, then they know to go and ask Stablecoin Coalition instead of, say, emailing Bitcoin. um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm just really impressed by the vision of yourself and the project. Really glad that we're going to have you on Avalanche, and I think everyone in the community is also going to be happy to have someone so established and so visionary building here. So really appreciate you explaining the Stablecoin Coalition. Penguin's happy to and excited to help that grow and join that for sure. So I wanted to also get your thoughts on just Avalanche in general. A lot of our listeners here are probably Avalanche native users, investors. Can you just tell us a little bit about when you were evaluating where to expand? What made Avalanche attractive, and how's the experience been so far?
So one thing I've realized after spending so many years in the industry is that it's not just about your idea, because everybody has good ideas, right? It's about your execution. It's about how big can you grow your community? Because without a community, your project's dead in the water, right? It's like opening up a shoe store and nobody comes to buy shoes, right? And then you haven't. Doesn't matter how good a quality your shoes are. If you don't have any customers, then what's the point of the shoe store? For Avalanche, you guys were able to grow massively. You guys are able to execute on all your deliverables, your promises. You guys have a great platform where again. Um, Low transaction times, low fees, all these things, easy to code. Those are massive, massive benefits for any ecosystem partner. And along with it, you guys have built such a massive community because you guys are able to do all these things, right? Um, so for us, it was pretty much a no-brainer, right? We need to approach the biggest and the best in the industry, and that's exactly what you guys are. Really, it seems like a cop out. It seems like a kind of a generic answer, but it really is the best answer to describe Avalanche and Pangolin, I think.
Wow, yeah, I really appreciate the and really love to hear that because well, people that are already building here and working here, we really think Avalanche is one of the greatest L1s to build on. But to hear someone who has been evaluating different chains to build on and also agree with that is really reassuring and great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, there's you guys do have a ton of competitors out, right? But just the fact that you guys have made it to where you guys are shows, you guys are obviously doing something right, right? And whatever that is, to be honest, at this point in the industry, I think it doesn't really matter what exactly it is. Right? There are some projects with amazing tech, some really, really cool and revolutionary tech, but they're not able to get off the ground because either they don't have a good enough marketing side or a business side that's properly able to handle the projects and the company itself. Maybe they're bad on the deliverables. Maybe a whole host of reasons, right? Maybe they were just unlucky, but we can't feel bad for projects because they're unlucky, right? As harsh it is as it is to say, um, we are also looking to push for adoption, but we can't hang on to um, what ifs, right? I'm not saying we're ignoring the smaller projects because we are onboarding some of the smaller projects for sure. If you look at some of our recent announcements, um, but we're prioritizing based on what the actual blockchain has been doing and how they have done. And again, Avalanche just it's top tier for sure.
Definitely. I mean, the growth has been amazing. I think just a month or two ago, the TVL was under a billion, and now I think we broke 10 billion on the network this week, and it's just continuing to
Exactly.
grow. And all
Yeah.
these blue chip projects are coming, Curve,
Yeah.
Aave, which I'm sure is exciting. And so, what's your impression of that Avalanche Rush program where all these incentives drew in big projects? Did that affect your decision to build here?
Ah, yes, that is so cool. To be honest, I think our partnership was we agreed on the partnership before the announcement of Rush, but oh man, we want to take part in it. It's such a cool incentive program because that really is what drives the industry. I think that is what's really going to set you guys apart from, a lot of other projects, right? Um, Again, this is what I was talking about when I said you guys have so much going for you guys and why you guys are top tier. Is that you guys are able to execute on these things. Right? I'm pretty sure if you asked 99% of projects, hey, would you like to have an incentive program where you can hand out, over $100 million to your ecosystem partners? Of course, every single one of them would say they want to do it. But you guys were able to actually do it. And that's not very common in the industry, right? Um, so I think that the fact that you guys are able to do it is one proof that you guys are very confident in what you do, and you guys are going to grow massively. And two, that of course is going to drive growth at an exponential rate. If you look at how projects start and finish, if you look at startups in the traditional world, if you look at venture caps and Silicon Valley and all these things, money is what drives everything, and it's what allows projects to start. And the more projects start, the more business ideas, use cases that is able to stick, right? Because that is the sad reality of a startup. The vast majority of them don't really make it in the long term, right? Whether they're bought out, being bought out is fine, but one way or another, a lot more than we would like uh, is not able to survive. Um, so it's very important to have that kind of funding, that access to resources, free flowing within your ecosystem if you want it to really prosper, I think.
I definitely agree that the execution on this program was excellent. Kudos to Luigi, director of DeFi at Ava Labs, and his entire team for just building all of this momentum and growth here. And so, another great thing that I think helped us grow is the new Avalanche Bridge between Avalanche and Ethereum. Have you tried that yet?
Um, I haven't personally, but I think our devs probably have. We're, we're building our OIN stake contract on Avalanche, so I'm pretty sure they have. Um, yeah.
Okay, awesome. I mean, I implore you to go try it out. It's really cheap and fast and safe, and there's some pretty good memes on Twitter too. if you've been
Mm.
if you've been seeing those, but that's great. So we've covered some pretty good topics here. So we've covered kind of OIN and how it got started, the problems it's trying to solve in DeFi and finance. We covered a bit of Avalanche. I want to leave some time at the end for questions. The final topic I like to touch on, usually, Daniel, is just tips for new users and also origin stories of yourself and how you got into crypto. So let's start with the origin story. So it's always interesting to hear like where people got in to crypto. Some people start with Bitcoin, some with Ethereum. Do you want to just share your own personal journey?
Yeah. So I was a bit all over the place. The first time I actually heard about Bitcoin was back in 2010. I was in university at that time, and I was trying to get the mining program to start running on my computer. But being 20 years old and having a attention span of a housefly, I decided not to because I couldn't figure out how to get it to work.
Nice.
Yeah, which is really annoying because back then it was like, what, you'd earn, hundreds or thousands of Bitcoin per day, right? Um, but yeah, no, that's when I first heard about it, but I completely forgot about it, right? And then I went to business school, and then I graduated. Then I went to equities and research, and while there, all I kept hearing about was Bitcoin and Ethereum and how it's going to change the world. And I had this guy in university who kept talking about how Bitcoin is going to replace currency throughout the world. And I'm from from business school. I'm thinking, no, man, you're crazy, right? Um, and then, after equities and research at a very conservative brokerage, by the way, so we didn't like crypto. Um, I went into project consulting, and while there, you know, a lot of my very successful friends in, investment banking and, operations consulting and these things, all of a sudden, every single one of them decided, no, you know what, I'm quitting and getting into blockchain. So then, I had a guy from Switzerland quit and move to China to get into blockchain. A friend of mine, he was a star analyst at his investment bank. He quit and then moved to Shanghai to start blockchain, um, uh, to work at a blockchain company. So then I thought, okay, I'm also going to quit and move to China to go work in blockchain. So that's actually literally how I got into blockchain. I was peer pressured into it. um, I
Awesome.
yeah, I don't regret it at all though. It was definitely a great opportunity and it has given me some experiences that I really could not have gotten in the traditional world, right? Especially being Canadian. I'm Korean Canadian. Um, Canada business is slow. The industry doesn't move much. So crypto is definitely a lot more exciting. And yeah,
Yeah, that's really cool. So basically, everyone around you was getting into it, and you're like, maybe there's something to this more than just speculation. The entire industry is booming here,
yeah,
and I think that's what it takes for most people is just this organic approach of hearing about it through various mediums. Everyone's kind of bullish and talking about it. Listening into talks like this, and all of a sudden it just clicks, and you're like, wow, this is actually going to be the future, and I want to be a part of it. That's awesome.
yeah. It definitely was too, right? Like these guys were guys I really respected. Very smart people. Very good friends with them too. And they all said, "Hey, look, we're going to be in Shanghai working." And I'm thinking, I don't want to be left out. These guys are really good friends from university, so I really miss hanging out with them, right? But then we were spread out all over the world. One guy was in China, one guy was in Switzerland. I was in Canada, so I thought half it was a good chance to go hang out with friends, and another half it's a great way to jump into a starting industry.
Well, I'm really glad they convinced you because now we're here today having a conversation and building DeFi together.
Right? Me too.
And so for your current role, did they reach out to you or did you have to apply for it?
Yeah, so I actually knew the founder from a previous project that I worked for. And then after that project, I was doing consulting, fundraising and consulting, crypto related. So then while I was doing that, he approached us and said, "Hey, look, I'm starting this project. Can you help us with the actual startup, right? Getting everything ready, getting the website, branding, marketing, everything, some of the strategy as well. I'm actually from finance and strategy. So I did a lot of fundraising and strategic consulting for crypto. And then he said, we need marketing side, we need BD, we need a lot of these things set up. So then I at first was just helping out until the company was set up, but then he asked me if I wanted to stay on, and I really saw the good vision of OIN Finance. It had a really bright future, and if we can achieve, even half the things that we set out to do, then it's going to be really big. It's going to allow me to really use my skill sets. It's going to, I love finance. I still love finance. I still love investments. And it really allows me to kind of bridge those two worlds together.
That's awesome. So it was networking then that got you your current role, which I think is how most people get into the industry and find roles here.
Right. Also, I just wanted to quickly plug, we're actually looking to hire people, right? So if you have, if you're good at marketing, social media, PR, we're looking for communication strategists. So send us your email at our website.
Yeah, that's a good plug. We actually brought in someone on our marketing team who was just a listener in Spaces like a month ago. So
Ah,
nice shout out. So the final message I like to leave people before we turn it to questions is just tips for new DeFi users, new crypto users. What kind of tips do you have?
ooh, tips would be obviously go check out the big guys like Pangolin. Just quick Google search big DeFi companies and you'll see it, right? DeFi is currently very, very confusing for a lot of users, and that's fine. You will eventually get the hang of it. It's not that hard, but it again, decentralized finance. And what is finance? It's how to use your assets. So it really does give you a freedom of your assets on the crypto space. So really just stick with it. You might feel overwhelmed a little bit at first. I know a few of my friends, my family still has no idea what it is, but that's fine. You'll get the hang of it real quick. And keep an eye on guys like Pangolin, right? And us, OIN Finance. Come to OIN Finance. We're awesome.
Yeah, good tips. The learning curve is steep, but it's just so fascinating. And once you get to a comfortable spot, it's a very powerful tool to use DeFi. But also stay safe because it's high reward, high risk out here.
Absolutely. That's why it's easy to stick with the big guys, right? That's why it's easy to stick with guys like Pangolin. You don't have to do so much due diligence as you would for smaller projects. Um, yeah.
For sure, for sure. Well, let's break here and see if anyone in the audience has a question. If you want to ask a question, it doesn't have to be a super deep one. Just anything about what we've been talking about. Go ahead and hit the request speaker button, and we'll let you on the stage to ask a question. Also, if you don't feel like public speaking, feel free to check out our Telegrams, our Twitters, our Discords to ask a question in a more private setting because yeah, talking in front of a bunch of strangers isn't always the most fun for people.
Yeah, that really scares off a lot of people. Um, I think there were a couple questions on Twitter that we could start off with first.
Yeah,
Um,
let's do that.
yeah, hold on. Let me just quickly check. Right. When are we going to see an AVAX version of OIN? Well, OIN is going to launch on AVAX, the coin. Um, and again, that is going to be used to pay the stability fees and governance of the stability fee. And that is going to be when pretty much, I think, at a very similar time frame as when the Avalanche stablecoin launches. It's going to have to be on Avalanche if you want to pay your stability fee. So it has to be available right at a similar time. For Avalanche on the OIN DAO, we're looking at late October, early November is when we're kind of targeting at the moment. We definitely will have more updates and a more specific time at a later date.
That's exciting. Great. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes. And I think this was more of a question for Pangolin. What will happen with the supply? Now only 54 million in circulation, but still a tenfold kept. I'm not sure what that means.
Okay, so they might be asking about a tokenomics update at Pangolin. I can just
Mhm.
briefly touch on that,
Yep.
where our max supply is currently set at 538 million tokens emitted over something like 28 years. And we want to change that to about half of the supply emitted over 4 years. So just a bit of a tokenomics change. And the excess supply will just be burnt off since it's already been minted. So I hope that answers that question.
Mm. And I would say trust Pangolin. They've gotten this far; they know what they're doing.
Hey, appreciate it. It's been quite a journey so far, and we're just still building and growing. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
So, so it sounds like we're good on questions on this call.
Mhm.
Really appreciate you coming on for a chat, Daniel. I learned a ton about yourself, about the project. Do you want to leave us with some final words before we wrap up today?
Yeah. It was obviously very exciting to be here. This is the first time connecting to the Pangolin and Avalanche community, which is very exciting for us. We love you guys. You guys are awesome. As for a plug for the company, I mean, V3 is launching soon, and it is pretty much going to revamp us into a brand new company. It is such a robust stablecoin minting and collateralization platform. You guys are also able to leverage your assets. Come check us out. I mean, our Constellation Partnership series, our Stablecoin Coalition is really, really going to make waves in the industry. I truly believe it. We're really going to redefine key aspects of DeFi, and that is stablecoins. And we're here to, not just release a product. We're here to lay the foundations of a true and lasting infrastructure. So keep an eye out on us. Follow us, Twitter, Telegram, all these things. We have currently an NFT giveaway, so we'll look into that. And yeah, we look forward to having a lot more of these with AVAX and Pangolin.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Daniel. It's been a great chat.
Thanks for having us.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening in on our spaces today. Our guest was OIN Finance. Check them out, OIN.finance. Great project. And we'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for listening to us talk for an hour.
All right. See you later. Bye.